to start, or do you want me to do it?
I'll be more than happy to do a quick kickoff.
Go ahead.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Good afternoon. So I have to tell you, for 28 years, I have had an opportunity to have the second grade class of Cobbles come in. And normally, when I say either good morning or good afternoon, they pin me against the back wall just because of their enthusiasm. So good afternoon. Good afternoon. Great. So we're delighted to be here. And I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this. In the past, Jim Costello, who is always the star and does a wonderful job about economic development in Penfield. And then I would come in February and talk a little bit about an update and then do a lot of boring things with where we are with our budget and how things are working out and what have you. And so the Chamber decided that this might be a good opportunity for the two of us to come together. And I think it's a great idea because Jim and I have had an opportunity to know and work with one another for about 38 plus years. So we both have the ability, we're like that old married couple. I start the sentence, he can finish the sentence. So it's just a great partnership. So I'm going to take just a moment to give you just a quick synopsis of where the town is and just to let you know what kind of great shape that we're in overall. And then from there, I'm going to turn it over to Jim for the economic piece. And then Jim and I are going to do a little soft shoe together and answer any questions that anybody has about what's going on in this great community. So just a couple of things to highlight from a budget standpoint. Town of Penfield is in wonderful shape from a budget standpoint overall. If you take a look, there's a slight difference from 17 to 18. Out of that approximate $400,000, $290,000 is just increase from healthcare, going from 17 to 18. And I know that all of you in some way, shape, or form feel that pain each and every day. And my hat's off to all of our department heads for doing such a great job of managing our budget overall. Our tax rate remains the same as it has the last couple of years. That's always a good news story, especially for our residents and businesses. We are the fourth lowest tax rate in the county. And so we're just ahead of a couple of communities that have landfills and receive some tipping fees. One community that has no tax at all, which is kind of interesting. And then one that has a tremendous amount of business at their location. We're under the state tax cap. That's always the big thing, is being under that tax cap overall. And no designation in this case is a good thing, which means that the town is not fiscally stressed. That is something that the last couple of years the state of New York has been looking at very, very closely on. We have one of the highest credit ratings, not only in this area, but across New York State at a AA1. Very fortunate for that. That helps us in any borrowing and anything that we do. And then we're one of the top communities for brick and mortar. So from a building standpoint, residential, commercial, industrial, the last couple of years we've been one of the highest for brick and mortar, which has really helped manage our tax rate and the taxes here in the town. So this is a good place to end about the brick and mortar because I get the opportunity to turn the mic over to Jim Costello and for him to kind of give a snapshot of all the different things that have been going on across the town since the last time that we got together. And then once Jim goes through that, then we'll be available for any and all questions that anybody has. So thank you for that. James.
Thank you, Tony. Always a tough act to follow. I've been trying for 37 years and it's not working. I want to thank you all for coming. It seems like yesterday we were here. We were over the other place at Country Club, but these years are going by really quickly, and it's amazing to see everybody back. I appreciate everybody's continued support of us. And hopefully this will be entertaining for you as well. Got a lot of things happening this year that we're really kind of proud of, and I want to kind of go through everything. I see a lot of faces in the crowd that help contribute to this success in many ways, so I want to thank all of you that have helped us through the process of getting to where we are this year. We're going to start for what happened during 2017. We'll talk a little about what's happening in 2018. and then we'll talk about some of our ongoing issues that we deal with on an annual basis. First thing is that we're very proud of, and probably the biggest thing that's happened in Penfield in all the years I've been working here. 5 years ago, we started a project based on our 2010 comprehensive plan recommendation to create a mixed-use district in the town of Penfield. We identified the area out by the YMCA on both sides of Route 250 from the YMCA property northward to Atlantic Avenue and then beyond to Penfield Center Road to create a new zoning district to allow for a mix of commercial, multi-residential, townhouse, that type of development that would kind of add to the character of the neighborhood and not create situations where you had more high-density commercial development such as Walmarts and that type of thing. We just, on the 1st of November, the town board passed and adopted resolutions to create the new zoning district. We've had several people show a lot of interest in possibly developing it on many of the sites out there already. The thing we're proudest of all is the fact that we rezoned 360 acres of what was initially farmland, single-family residential development zoning, and we did not have one single complaint from anybody about the rezoning. So we had a lot of support. We spent a lot of time. It took a long time. It took 5 years, but we did get a lot of support from the neighbors and from the adjacent property owners. And it worked out well, so we're now anticipating getting new developers to come in and start redeveloping those sites. You see Ralph DiTucci over there who stayed with us from day one, so congratulations, Ralph. The biggest projects that we're dealing with right now in Penfield is really the redevelopment of Baytown Plaza. That's been a major, major project for us. There are currently about 420,000 square feet of commercial space at Baytown. In the end, they're anticipating about 505,000 square feet, so you can tell there's still some freestanding buildings that have to be constructed. I went out and did an inventory. There are approximately 50 lease spaces in that complex. Right now, about 25 of them are filled. And we're going to go through and talk a little bit about some of the newer projects coming in on that site. There is a lot of renovation going on over at the old Walmart building. You can see, I'm trying to find my clicker here. There we go. This is the old Walmart building that was left vacant when they moved over to the other site. They are now installing a Burlington, used to be Burlington Coat Factory. They don't call themselves that anymore, but it's Burlington. And that is operational. They are also installing a shoe department right on the corner here, which is just to the north of Burlington. There's a third area just south of the Burlington area that is vacant right now, but it's going to be the new Planet Fitness. They're going to relocate from where they are in the plaza now and go over here to this site and approximately double the space that they have now. So that'll be filled up fairly quickly. This year we installed Witchcraft Breweries. They're on the corner doing very well. There's another little health food restaurant called Body Fuel that's there now that's doing very well. So they're starting to fill in some of the spaces that have been vacant for quite some time. And we all knew that once the new Walmart was installed that people would be coming to fill in these vacant spaces. They just tore down the old Pizza Hut and the old Sal's Birdland a couple years ago. They've built a new Chili's restaurant. That just opened up in the later part of October. They're doing very well up there as well. They tore down the old Beale Street, and they're looking to build another facility at that site. They've been talking to several tenants. I don't think they've selected anybody yet, but that should be a developed site at some point in time, either this year or early next year. I want to talk about one of our new gems is the Hampton Inn that was constructed over on Panorama Trail South. It took a long time to get it in there. I think I had it on this presentation for the last 3 or 4 years for all of you. Finally, I'm able to take it off this year. They did a great job of getting it constructed. It's a really beautiful facility, so if you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, stop in and say hi to everybody. That is a 6-story, 79-room hotel with office space. Oops, I'll go back. Let's go back here. There's office space up here on the top floor. The developers of the project actually moved their offices into that area. I wanted to give a shout out, not new construction, but a major remodel was done on the Marriott Courtyard. Many people don't know that. They don't see it very often. But a lot of money was expended this year throughout the summer months to upgrade that facility. They did a beautiful job. They added a 30,000 square foot addition onto the Heathwood Senior Facility over on the corner of Pembroke and Route 250. That has become a very, very viable and desirable area to be. And there is still additional area for development on that site as well, which I'm sure they'll be coming back to talk to us about at some point in time in the future. We were able to fill in one of the two former Niagara First Banks. The one on Route 250 over Parkside Commons Plaza is now a Verizon site. Its sister building that was built over on Bay Road across from Wegmans is still vacant. We're still looking for a tenant for that site. So if anybody has an idea, I'm more than welcome to listen to you about it. This is one of our more interesting applications that initially started out as pretty much an easy application. This is the property over on the corner of Dublin Road and Sweets Corners Road. A young couple came in and wanted to build a cidery mill at the top of the hill. And it's a permitted activity. There is a conservation easement on the property that does limit them as to how much they can develop on site. But the cidery is a permitted use under the conservation easement and the state code and the town code. So they came in and asked for approval for a 2,500 square foot cider mill. And the intent really is for them to make hard cider and soft cider and then sell it from the site. It's not really a place that you're going to go and just hang out and drink all night. But it became controversial. The neighbors were not excited about having anything on top of the hill. They thought that it was going to be a forever wild area, which it really was not. But we had to go through some conversation with them, and finally, after about a year and a half, it got resolved. And they are building that facility right now, and it should be open, I think, sometime right after the new year. A couple of homes were torn down on the corner of Harris Whalen Park Road and Penfield Road. A new urgent care center was constructed right at the corner. That's about a 2,000 square foot building that's providing services now to Penfield. And then the other building was the iSight building. I put the original drawing up, the rendering of it, because we had a little bit of a problem after the project was approved by the planning board. The developers changed some of the exterior of the building, and it wasn't what we had actually approved, so we had to go back afterwards, work with them to add some different details to make it look a little bit more like the original one. But it's kind of worked out, and I think everybody's fairly happy with what's occurred there. Murphy's Law came into play earlier this year. That was the prior South Point Grill that wasn't doing very well. It was still the same owner, but he changed the brand to Murphy's Law. He owns Murphy's Law downtown as well, and it's been very, very successful since he did that. So that was probably a great move on his part. We had a vacant building. This year's kind of the theme of filling vacant buildings for us. We had a vacant building that was a former CVS building over on Empire Boulevard. It's been sitting there for years vacant. Dollar Tree came in this year and took that over. I wanted to get a picture of the parking lot because it's been packed like that every single day since it opened, so the world loves Dollar Tree evidently. This is going to be K2 Brewery. This is the old antique shop, all that jazz on Empire Boulevard. Two brothers bought the property recently, and they're converting that over to a microbrew called K2. Their name is Kennedy, the two Kennedy brothers. They will tell you that they're going to be open on the first week of December. I was in there the other day, and they better start hustling because they got a lot of work to do to get it open by then. But they think it is going to be open by December 2nd, I believe. Aldi's added a 3,000 square foot addition onto their building over at Penfair Plaza. It was done fairly quickly. I was amazed at how quickly they closed the store down, and probably within about 5 weeks it was totally completed. So kudos to them for getting that open back up to the public. Planet Fitness, another vacant building that had been sitting there a while back at the former Panera Bread, and a couple of other things. Dollar Tree was actually in this location as well, relocated over into the plaza. Planet Fitness took this property and refurbished it and got it back open again, and it's a very popular operation at this point. This is the world headquarters, the new world headquarters for Salvatore's Pizzerias. This was a single-family residence owned by a very old lady who passed away, unfortunately, a couple of years ago. Mr. Fantuzzo bought the property and has refurbished it. He's added on to it, actually, and he is going to conduct his corporate business from this location. He's also going to be, oops, let me go back. He's also going to be building an apartment behind that fence. There's some more property back there. He'll be living in the apartment during the summer months and then moving to Florida during the winter months, I believe. So, but it did do a nice job. He did a nice job in refurbishing that old building. We had a new massage and therapy operation open up. It's called Radiant Sun over at 1742 Penfield Road. Young lady by the name of Julie Grogan recently got her degree and then came in and got an approval from the town board to open that area up. That area has all of a sudden become very popular. It's down the hill as you get down towards Penfield Road and 441, and we've had several buildings now where people want to start doing some things in the old houses and creating more businesses down there. And I will be working with the PBC to make sure that you get all these people's names so you can contact them to see if they want to become members. Nothing new is really happening here. This was actually one I put in last year. This is a new business, relatively new. The art shop is in there. They've been in there for about a year now, and there's also a little gallery just to the east of that building. The reason I put it on, though, is because the building is kind of tired. The new owner is going to go in and do some painting, and I don't want the town to be shocked, but it's not going to look like it does today. There are going to be some features on here that you won't be used to, especially in the four corners. But there are some teals and some dark blues that are going to be incorporated into the building in the springtime. And she's trying to do everything she can to try and tidy up the building and make it look a little more attractive for the town. So that should be an interesting paint job. This is another interesting project. This is a big project that we're looking at right now. It's just starting. There's a group of three, Norm Leanhouse, Dutch Summers, and Richie Lefroy are in the process of partnering up. This is the property down on Panorama Trail across from Land Rover and Jaguar. This is the old site. I have every year I've had it on here for you for the old hotel site that never got built. These properties here total about 55 acres now. They are in the process of looking to develop these properties in a mixed-use development. They're looking at more of a mixed-use apartment type commercial retail area here. As you go further up, they're looking to do something more like a Linden Oaks office building complex in here, and there will be some type of housing development adjacent to the townhouses that are at Ellens Creek Valley. We've just started working with them, and they're in the process right now of trying to prepare some plans. You may see some minor grading taking place out there over the winter months so they can kind of open up areas to get a better feel for what they can develop and what they can't develop. It's a challenging site. There's a lot of topography on the site. Their initial intent was to go in and grade out the entire property and just flatten it out. But our staff indicated that we'd prefer to see them leave some areas open and keep the topography in place. And I think it's going to be a much nicer project because of that. And they've agreed to do that, so that's going to be a major project over the next couple of years. We have some small additions. Joey's, very popular pasta house in town, added a 600 square foot addition on. They needed more bar area, they needed more table area. And they're coming to conclusion. I took that picture last week, and I suspect it's probably in much better shape than it was last week when I started. They're also going to have a small outdoor dining area over here, which they badly wanted. And it's a very popular restaurant, and I think they'll do very well there with those additions. Mary Carriola for years has been on Broncroft Boulevard. It's an old family residence that was converted into a multi-family residence to accommodate the facility. It's been kind of dangerous. There are parking lots out in front. It's hard to get in and out. It's hard to back out onto Broncroft. They came to us earlier this year. They had a piece of property on the corner of Jackson and State Road up by, as you're heading towards Webster. It's a 7-acre parcel, and they purchased that property. We approved the project, and they're going to relocate from Broncroft Boulevard up to State and Jackson Road. So we're very happy for them. It's a much safer facility. It's much more modernized for them. They need the facility to conduct their business in a more efficient manner. We're not quite sure yet what's going to happen to the former facility because it really doesn't lend itself to as a single-family residence, so we're going to have to look at some type of alternative uses. I put this one up here because I want to give a shout out to Terry and Lindsay Williams. They purchased the old church on 5 Mile Line Road a couple of years ago, about a year and a half ago now. And they've been in with the town board and also with the Historic Preservation Board to see what they can do to preserve it. They went in, they scraped off the entire building, which was in really bad shape, and they repainted the entire building. They're actually in the process right now of restoring all of the stained glass windows. I think they've got 16 on the site, and they've restored 2. And they've got 2 more out being restored as we speak. He has his Aspen lighter vacuum and sewing repair operation, which was originally on Monroe Avenue. We relocated over here. And they have been nominated, and they were awarded the Jeff Crane Award for Historic Preservation for Penfield this year. Very deserving couple, and I think the town board will be issuing that commendation to them on December 6th at its town board meeting. So congratulations to them. What's proposed for 18? 18 is going to be a busy year for us as well. There is a new daycare facility that has just been approved by the planning board. The zoning board is still reviewing the variances that it needs. I am assuming that they'll be granted on the 16th of November. This is on the corner of Pebbleweb Park and Creek Street. The Monarch facility, day facility is just to the south of it. It's a good transitional use. It's the last vacant property. There's a housing tract behind it. It's a good transitional use. It's not retail. It closes on the weekends and after 6 o'clock at night, so it should act as a good transition for those residences up there. The old building that you remember is maybe Simonetti's realty business as you're coming up the hill on Penfield Road. That is adjacent to Channing Philbrook Park. That is going to be torn down. Dr. Smith, who owns the Panorama Oral Surgery Facility, he operates down in Panorama, in the office park down there on the other side of Panorama Plaza. He's going to tear down that building and build a new 2,065 square foot office. I was talking to the architect the other day, and he said the toughest part of this whole layout was the fact that he wanted a hammock installed in his office so he could relax during the day when he's not pulling teeth. So they had to design the office to accommodate a rocking hammock. So that was probably the biggest challenge Jim Fahey had this year. There's going to be another dental office. We probably have more dentists and hairdressers in Penfield than anything else. There's going to be another dental office being constructed on the corner of Liberty Street and 5 Mile Line Road. There's currently a little vacant parcel. There's also a yellow house on the site as well, which will be demolished soon. Dr. Merkley is going to move out of his facility over on, I think it's 2084 5 Mile Line Road. He's going to build this building and relocate to this site. So there is some new construction going on in the four corners. This is the one I'm happy, especially for the Family First group. Who's doing the work at Family First today if you're all here? I'm sure somebody is. Yeah. In any event, what happened was there's a guy coming in. His father owns Cam's Pizzeria. His name is Carm. He's basically taking over the Cam's franchises. He's going to upgrade them and kind of do some new types of menus, that type of thing. He is taking this site. I think it's a lease to buy at this point in time. They're going to be taking down the canopy fairly soon. He's appearing before the Zoning Board of Appeals in November, and he will be trying to open sometime right after the first of the year with a new pizzeria, submarine shop, etc. So we're really happy about that. There's 2 vacant buildings in that neighborhood, as you all know. I show the other one every year for Jack Best's sake. We'll talk about that one in a minute, but this one I'm really happy to see get cleaned up and get open again. And we do need something in that neighborhood. I actually live in that neighborhood, and every time I go to a party or something, one of my neighbors grabs me and says, "What are you doing about this?" So I'm kind of happy that this is going to occur fairly quickly. Another big thing is we've been working for the last couple of years to acquire and then also upgrade the areas behind those properties on the southeast quadrant of 5 Mile Line Road and Penfield Road to develop a public parking lot. The town board did purchase all those properties about 2 years ago now. There's a lot of utility work that we're trying to have done by the RG&E to get the thing cleaned up. There's some poles in the parking lots, particularly one over here by Guida's we want to get rid of. We've been working on getting the electric off that pole and getting Guida's tied in underground, and there's a vault that the RG&E owns right in this area here that has to be taken out and upgraded above ground. We've been working with them for the last year to get that done. It's not been easy, but we are getting there. The intent is to go in after that work is done and then resurface the entire parking lot and get it back to a shape that is safe and functional for everybody. Even now we're out there, patching potholes, that type of thing, because it's so bad. So hopefully in the springtime or early summer we will have that resurfaced and restriped and actually have the ability to put more parking than we have there now. So it's worked out well. For those of you that like Homerama, Penfield is going to be the host of Homerama in 2018 at the Watersong subdivision, if you know where that is, on 5 Mile Line Road, just south of the Webster Town line. This, I believe, will be the 3rd Homerama in that subdivision. I think that's how we're going to build that subdivision now, just have Homerama there every single year until it's done. But it should be a good event. It's going to, I think, take place in July of next year. I think right now they have about 8 houses locked in, so always a nice event. And the Rochester Home Builders Association always does a nice effort, and they work well with the town of Penfield. We got to go back every year. Tony and I were talking. I'm kind of happy this year that I can tell you that we have several places that have always been on our list of eyesores that have been cleaned up or being taken off the list. I think when I started with you, we had 7 or 8, and we're down to about 2 or 3 now. This is the site over on the corner of Route 250 and Atlantic Avenue, the old gas station. That was finally demolished earlier this year, back in January. It's all been cleaned and remediated. The site is able to be developed. The owner is going to develop, and I think they'll probably be working with maybe Ralph DiTucci to come up with a coordinated plan for his property as well for redevelopment of that site, but it is able to be developed now without any problems with the DEC. So that's a big one off the site. That was a real eyesore. It got to be a real problem in the end. And that thing was vacant for, I think, I've been here 38 years. In the third week I started working, it closed down, so it's been vacant for 38 years. So. Another one that was a big problem is the one on Penfield Road across from Panorama Plaza. That was a former, trying to think of dry cleaner, thank you. And it's been contaminated now for several years. The owners have decided now to go in. They did receive approval from the town board, or the planning board, excuse me, to develop a 2,500 square foot office building there. It's been approved. There is some minor remediation that has to be done in one of the portions of the property. They went in and they've injected materials into the soil that make the materials inert that they're trying to kill off. That should be wrapped up, I think, probably in the next couple of months, and they will come in, I think, in the springtime and start developing that site. And then my favorite one of all time, which is in my neighborhood, this is an ongoing problem for me personally. There was an offer, actually. Cariglio's Pizzeria had an offer into the owners of the property, which is called Lehigh Gas out of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. They had an offer in with some contingencies. The price was fine. They had no problem with the price, but the owners did not want to address the contingency issue. So the Cariglio's group dropped out. Not to say that they couldn't go back in, but there's nobody else that I'm aware of that's interested in that property right now. It is starting going into a state of disrepair. The roof is in really bad shape. And I'm going to be contacting them to either install a new roof on that site or demolish the building to do something to get them to move forward and try and sell that property at a reasonable price. That's really the biggest one that we're dealing with right now that's left on our agenda for redevelopment sites that are in contaminated states. So hopefully we'll get that cleaned up. I know you all have probably questions about Shadow Pines Golf Course and where we are with that. I'm going to turn that back over to our esteemed supervisor, and he'll give you some information as to where he is with that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cos. Great job. Thank you as always. So before I tackle the Shadow Pines, I would be remiss if I didn't once again recognize Robin Finnerty. Robin is with the County of Monroe, and you heard her make reference to Imagine Monroe. She works with a team, a good friend and former colleague of mine, Jeff Adair from the county legislature, but they are doing some great things down there. We've had more contact with that office in the last year than I think in the previous 7+ years since I've been supervisor. So Robin, thank you to you, your team, to Mr. Adair, and thank you for being here today because it really is important, I believe, to the business community, and they are always looking for ways to help improve our business community. So Robin, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to take you on a whirlwind here in 30 seconds because I want to be sensitive to time. So as you recall, Shadow Pines 2 years ago, about this time or coming up on this time, did close. We put together a moratorium committee. One of the things that they were looking at was what do we do with that particular site. We do have a moratorium in place. That moratorium lasts through the end of March 2018. One of the main recommendation that came from the committee back to the town board was for the town to look at purchasing that property. So the town board has started that process. And so to give you an idea of where we are to date, as you can imagine, whenever you have any type of real estate transactions, you get a lot of lawyers involved. So for those of you that are lawyers here, Jerry, I apologize, but it seems like the more lawyers you have, the slower the process seems to go. We have rendered the services of an environmental engineer that they have completed the phase 1 overview of that area. They've made some recommendations back to us. We do have an environmental an attorney that has actually reviewed all of that information. We have rendered the services of bond counsel. We are in the process of rendering the services of real estate counsel. And we continue to move forward with looking to acquire that particular piece of property. So as you can imagine, there are a lot of moving parts through this process overall. We have back and forth between the town and Dolomite Oldcastle on that, and so those negotiations, discussions continue on, and we'll see where that ultimately leads us. The board has been certainly very supportive of at every stage as we've gone through with that. And I hope that as we get into the December, early January timeframe, we'll continue to keep everyone updated as to where we are. And again, the goal is for the town to acquire that piece of property. So the next logical question is, once you've acquired it, what are you going to do with it? So the board has, at a high level, talked about things like active, passive recreation, some open space, and general municipal use. And so when I say general municipal use, it could be maybe a portion could be used for a new library, a portion could be used for a new community center, or some other type of structure that the community might need. Penfield is approximately 60 to 65% developed, so that means that we still have a lot of land in town, and as we move forward, we want to make sure that we're keeping our options open for any new support buildings and services that we can provide the community. So that's kind of a snapshot. Certainly, I would be more than happy to answer any questions, specific questions around that. I can't get into things like what's the price that you're looking to purchase it for, and some of those, that's part of that ongoing negotiation that we have to be sensitive to overall. But would be happy to answer any questions about that, but more importantly, happy to answer any questions, and Jim and I will partner wherever Jim is, there he is, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions, and we'll pass the mic back and forth accordingly. Jim, you did such a great job. You answered all the questions as always. Anything else?
I have one last thing we're going to talk about.
All right.
The town board has commissioned the staff to start working on the 2020 comprehensive plan. We are in the process right now of starting to collect data and move forward. We will be creating some type of citizen committee to help us participate in getting this completed. We do anticipate it will take approximately a year and a half or so, or 2 years possibly. I'm hoping it won't take that long. And I'm not expecting a lot of tweaking other than minor tweaking on our current document. I think we had a really good 2010 comprehensive plan update, and I think that this one is going to just fine tune what we have now. Of course, it will incorporate the new mixed use district into it, and I think that if anybody's interested and you want to participate, get your information to Tony LaFountain. And he's up here if you need to contact him and see if you're interested in either participating or providing data or input to us that will help us prepare a great document for 2020. Thanks.
All right. Thanks. Good job.
Thank you.